Welcome to Claims Navigation, a channel where we discuss insurance-related claims. My name is Ben Ogoleye. I'm an insurance adjuster in Ontario, Canada. I have over 27 years experience as an insurance adjuster, and this is episode 5. Today we're going to be talking about fault determination rules. The fault determination rules is used to ascertain who is at fault for an automobile accident. Most jurisdictions in Canada use the fault determination rules for adjusters to determine fault and also apply whatever deductibles and settlements for an automobile accident claim. This topic is quite contentious for every driver who's been involved in an accident, and they sort of feel unhappy about the insurance company's decision and sometimes wonder how that decision was arrived at. Unfortunately, most adjusters do not perhaps do a proper job of explaining how fault was determined and just tell the insured that we've assessed you as at fault and leave it at that. So I'm just going to use this time to share with you how fault determination is made and explain some of the rationale behind it. The first thing to note in the province of Ontario, and I believe most Canadian jurisdictions have a similar system in place, is that the fault determination rules is based under the Insurance Act of Ontario, and it is R.R.O 1990 Regulation 668. If you Google Ontario fault determination rules, you will find this document there. And also, if you live outside of Ontario, wherever jurisdiction that you reside in, if you Google or do an online search for fault determination rules and just put your jurisdiction after that search, it should give you some information about how fault is assessed for automobile accidents. Since I'm in Ontario, I'm going to focus on the Ontario rules, and you can use this as a guide for your province as well, especially if you reside in Canada, because it's pretty much the same, maybe some nuances that's slightly different, but it's essentially the same rules. So section or rule 3 of the fault determination rule says that the degree of fault of an insured is determined without reference to the circumstances in which the incident occurred, including weather conditions, road conditions, visibility, or the actions of pedestrians, or B, the location on the insured's automobile of the point of contact with any other automobile involved in the accident or incident, R.R.O 1990 Regulation 668 Section 3. So what this means is that the degree of fault does not take into consideration the circumstances in which the incident occurs. So you can argue, well, it was snowing and the roads were slippery, I lost control of my vehicle, and that's the reason why I feel I should not be assessed at fault for this accident. So weather conditions or road conditions or visibility or actions of a pedestrian is not an argument for your benefit. You're required to have full attention while operating an automobile, and you can't introduce these circumstances as an excuse to extricate yourself from fault. And also, the location on the insured's automobile of the point of contact with any other automobile involved in the accident. So you can't say, well, argue that your location, the location of your car, resulted in the accident, and it's actually not your fault. And the Insurance Act and the fault determination rules did not accept that argument. Then Section 4 says, if more than one rule applies with respect to the insured, the rule that attributes the least degree of fault to the insured shall be deemed to be the only rule that applies in the circumstances. So that's R.R.O. 1990, Regulation 668, Section 4, Subsection 1. So if more than one rule applies, the regulation allows the least degree of fault will be assessed based on the rules with the least degree of fault. Section 4, Subsection 2 says, despite Subsection 1, if two rules apply with respect to an incident involving two automobiles, and if under one rule the insured is 100% at fault, and under the other rule the insured is not at fault for the accident, the insured shall be deemed to be 50% at fault for the accident. So if two rules apply to your accident, and under one rule you're deemed to be 100% at fault, but the second rule, it's 0% fault. So what the regulation is saying is that you will be deemed 50% at fault for that accident. So you go 50-50 on that one. And then Section 5 says, if an incident is not described in any of these rules, the degree of fault of the insured shall be determined in accordance with the ordinary rule of law. So if the rules or the circumstances of the accident is not attaching to any of the rules in the fault determination rules, then common law, ordinary rules of law would apply to those circumstances. And then Section 5, Subsection 2 says that if there is insufficient information concerning an incident to determine the degree of fault of the insured, it shall be determined in accordance with the ordinary rule of law unless otherwise required by these rules. So insufficient information would then revert to the ordinary rule of law. So you can argue that, well, like there's something wrong with my car, all those kind of stuff, and that's why the accident happened. That's not going to get you out of fault because even though the fault determination rules may not specifically deal with mechanical aspects of your automobile, there are other laws that would apply, perhaps the Highway Traffic Act, which requires you to operate a safe car. So that would be something that needs to be taken into consideration. So that's the introduction. Now we're going to start with the rules, and these rules are pretty much in different sections, and it's certainly quite interesting, and I will be going over those rules, and hopefully we're all going to learn something as we go along, because I know I've personally experienced I've been involved in one accident, but that was a long time ago, and I was not happy with the rules, and I think this happened even before I got into insurance, so it's quite a long time ago. But let's go to Rule 6. So Rule 6, the title for that rule is Rule for Automobiles Traveling in the Same Direction and Lane. So this essentially deals with rear-end accident. Rear-end accidents is the most easiest accident to adjudicate or to make a determination on. The rule is very simple. If you rear-end a car you are 100% at fault for that accident. So Rule 6 says this section applies when automobile A, which will be the automobile in front, is struck from the rear by automobile B, and both automobiles are traveling in the same direction and in the same lane. So if you're in the same lane, in the same direction, the car behind strikes the one in front, very easy, it's 100% at fault. And it says if automobile A is stopped or is in forward motion, the driver of automobile A is not at fault, and automobile A is the vehicle in front, and the driver of automobile B is 100% at fault for the incident, which is the driver behind. Now, thanks to Wikipedia, there's a GIF that's showing in this video that gives you the scenario, a video GIF scenario of this rule. So you can see that in the video. And section 6, subsection 3 says if automobile A is turning either to the right or to the left in order to enter a side road, private road, or driveway, the driver of automobile A is not at fault, and the driver of automobile B is 100% at fault for the incident. So the same rear end scenario, if you're going on a major roadway and you slow down to make a right or left turn and you get hit from behind, the driver that struck you from behind will be deemed 100% at fault. And subsection 4 says if automobile A is in forward motion and is entering a parking place on either the right or left side of the road, the driver of automobile A is not at fault, and the driver of automobile B is 100% at fault for the incident. So you're driving, maybe stopping to find a parking spot, and in that process you slow down and the car behind you rear ends your car, then certainly the one that did the rear ending will be at fault. So that is it for Rule 6. Now we're going into Rule 7, which is the rules that apply for entering a roadway. So assuming that you're parked or a vehicle is parked on the side of the road and is now trying to get into the road, and in the process comes into the road while not in safety, which is checking to see that the cars with the right of way are in safe distance for them to merge from the parking spot onto the roadway. That car that's exiting or leaving the parking spot that comes into contact with a car that's on the right of way will be deemed at fault. So section 7 or rule 7 subsection 1 says this section applies when automobile A collides with automobile B while automobile B is entering a roadway from a parking place, a private road, or driveway. So if this incident occurs when automobile B is leaving a parking place and automobile A is passing the parking lane, the driver of automobile A is not at fault and the driver of automobile B is 100% at fault for this accident. So subsection 3 says if the incident occurs when automobile B is entering a roadway from a private road or a driveway and automobile A is passing the private road or driveway, and if there are no traffic signals or signs, the driver of automobile A is at fault. The driver of automobile A is not at fault, and the driver of automobile B is 100% at fault for the incident. So the perfect example of this is if you are pulling off from your driveway, from your house on your driveway, and there's a connecting major road that you're trying to either make a right or left turn at. If you make that right turn or left turn and collide with a car on that major road, you will be held 100% at fault for that accident because you made that turn while not in safety. So it is essential that while you're exiting from a private roadway or a parking lot, especially onto a major roadway, that you make sure that there are no vehicles coming that you may come in contact with. So that will be that for section or rule 7. Now, rule 8 is a rule that pertains to entering from an on-ramp. So that it will be an highway where you're coming off a ramp and you're trying to connect to the major roadway. So rule 8 says if automobile A collides with automobile B on a controlled access road while automobile B is entering the road from an entrance lane, the driver of automobile A is not at fault and the driver of automobile B is 100% at fault for the incident. So the rule is very clear. You're coming off an off-ramp and you're trying to merge with an highway. If you hit a car that is traveling on that highway or roadway that you're trying to merge into, then you will be held 100% at fault for that accident. So now for rule 9. Rule 9 deals with a multi-car rear end and chain reaction. And you've all seen this perhaps on TikTok videos or YouTube or Facebook, wherever, multi-vehicle accidents. Those are quite the tricky ones because a lot of times there are no witnesses or there's several cars, especially in Canada where we have adverse weather conditions that can happen spontaneously. And you may be driving, you have a clear vision, and all of a sudden a snowstorm starts and everybody loses vision of the roadway, and before you know it, you have a multi-crash event that's going on. So rule 9 or section 9 deals with this type of scenario, and it says that this section applies with respect to an incident involving 3 or more automobiles that are traveling in the same direction and in the same lane, and in reference it's called a chain reaction. The degree of fault for each collision between 2 automobiles involved in the chain reaction is determined without reference to any related collisions involving either of the automobiles and another automobile. Subsection 3 says, if all automobiles involved in the incident are in motion and automobile A is the leading vehicle, automobile B is the second, and automobile C is the third vehicle. So section 3 or rule 3 subsection A says, in the collision between automobile A and B, the driver of automobile A is not at fault and the driver of automobile B is 50% at fault for the incident. So in a 3-car scenario, the first car in the park, the driver is 0% at fault. The second car that rear-ends the first car will be judged 50% at fault. And the third car at the rear that hits the second car will be judged 100% at fault. So rule 9.4 A and B, it says, if only automobile C is in motion when the incident occurs, the collision between automobile A and B, neither driver is at fault for the incident, and in the collision between automobile B and C, the driver of automobile B is not at fault and the driver of automobile C is 100% at fault for this incident. So a typical scenario is that you have 2 cars, parked at, waiting at the traffic controlled intersection. And while waiting, the third car comes, smashes the car ahead of it, which in turn propels that car into the one ahead of it. Then what happens in that scenario is the first two cars are not at fault, and the driver that's rear-ended the middle car will be held 100% at fault. So the contrast is that if the car is in motion, if the three cars are in motion when the accident occurred, the only person that's going to walk away without fault will be the car ahead. The one behind the car ahead will be judged 50% at fault, and the one that is at the end of the park will be judged at 100% fault. So the last rule I'm going to talk about today is Rule 10, and this rule deals with side swipes. So that is two cars traveling in the same direction in different lanes, and perhaps while trying to make a lane change, they sideswipe each other or come in contact with each other. Rule 10 deals with this type of accident scenario. And Rule 10 says this section applies when automobile A collides with automobile B and both automobiles are traveling in the same direction and in adjacent lanes. Subsection 2 says if neither automobile A nor automobile B changes lanes and both automobiles are on or over the center line when the incident, a sideswipe, occurs, the driver of each automobile is 50% at fault for the accident. So essentially, the two cars are traveling in the same direction but in different lanes, and for some reason they veer to the line and come in contact at the line. That accident scenario will be assessed at 50% each to both cars. And subsection 3 says if the location on the road of automobile A and B when the incident, a sideswipe, occurs cannot be determined, the driver of each automobile is 50% at fault for the accident. So if for some reason both drivers are arguing about, well, I was on my lane, you came into my lane, and the other one says, no, you came into my lane. So now we have no evidence to support which driver actually veered out of their lane into the other lane. Then unfortunately, we're not able to let one driver go, so it will be 50% apportionment of fault in that scenario. And I always say this, your best scenario is to have like an onboard camera, dash cam, that will sort of give some information to the adjuster. And if you don't have a dash camera, hopefully the vehicle behind you is a bus load full of nuns that were paying attention, and you can use them as evidence if they stop and give you their information. So if you can pass that to the adjuster, certainly that will be taken into consideration because you have witnesses. So subsection 4 says if the incident occurs when automobile B is changing lanes, the driver of automobile A is not at fault, and the driver of automobile B is 100% at fault for the incident. So if during a lane change, one of the vehicles strikes the other car that is rightfully in their lane, the car that made the lane change will be assessed 100% at fault because they did it while not in safety. And subsection 5 says if the incident occurs when automobile A is turning left at an intersection and automobile B is overtaking A to pass it, the driver of automobile A is 25% at fault, and the driver of automobile B is 75% at fault for the incident. Now, this is an interesting one. And it's happened, it's happened several times, or it happens several times a day, perhaps, where someone is trying to make a left turn and the car behind them, or maybe three cars behind them, is impatient and decides to overtake, and while overtaking, the car making the left turn proceeded with the turn, and there's an interaction of both vehicles. The car that overtook will be assessed 75% at fault. The car that was making the left-hand turn will be assessed 25% at fault. And I guess the rationale behind that is that the car that was making the turn, it is incumbent upon them to ensure that they're making the turn in safety, and the car that was trying to overtake obviously was doing it against the law. So in that scenario, I know it's one of those scenarios people are not happy about, but that is what the statutes, the fault determination rule says. Subsection 6 says, if the incident occurs when automobile A is turning left at a private road or a driveway, and automobile B is overtaking automobile A to pass it, the driver of each automobile is 50% at fault for the incident. So this is a rule that pertains to a private driveway. So if you're going home and perhaps your home is, it could be anywhere, the roadway, and while you're making a left turn, another car is trying to overtake and comes in contact with you, that will be assessed at 50% apportionment of fault, because in this case, you're expected to make your left turn in safety, and the other guy is not expected to be overtaken. The first rule, subsection 5, deals with what happens on a major intersection, while subsection 6 applies to a private driveway. So this will be the first part of the fault determination rules. The next episode, we're going to be talking about the other rules. There's about 9 or 10 more that we're going to be talking about. And I would encourage you, if you like this video, please share, share, and subscribe. It really helps to get me motivated to do more. And now hopefully it helps you to have a better understanding of the insurance, navigation of your insurance claims with the insurance company. So please share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. I'm going to keep on bringing topics that a lot of people over the years call me about, and I give them advice, but you know what, now perhaps I can give a much bigger audience advice on how to do this thing. So see you at the next video. Claims Navigation on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Claims Navigation. I'm hoping to go on Twitter, and it's going to be fun. Thank you, and God bless.